Hello to my language and literature group. Welcome Danis, Faris, Timmy, Anna and Ella. Alex, Annie and Emma, if you are here, this lesson is not for you because you had this lesson on Wednesday when we did our double. Okay, this is a replacement for Friday the 13th lesson. So just for half the class, please. Okay, we're going to be looking at how people responded to Lucy's story about going into Narnia. Last lesson, we had a look at how the other children responded. We looked at Peter's response as a supportive older brother. We looked at Susan's response. She thought Lucy was a bit silly. And we looked at Edmund's response, who called her Batty, which meant crazy. Today, we're going to look at something a little bit different. How do you think a grown-up would respond to Lucy's story about visiting Narnia through a wardrobe? Would a grown-up be kind, do you think, like Peter? Would he say, "Oh, that's a lovely story that you've made up"? Would a grown-up laugh? Is there any possibility that a grown-up might believe them? I wonder how you would respond if somebody you knew said that they had found another world inside of a wardrobe. Well, the children decide in chapter 5 to tell the professor their story because they're worried about Lucy. Okay, so today we're going to look at how the professor responds to the Narnia story. I'd like you to remind yourself of what the professor says by going back and rereading parts of the book. You will need to read from the bottom of page 53 in your Narnia book up until page 58. That's the bottom of page 53 where it says it was an unpleasant evening, up to the middle of page 58. So just pause the video, go away and reread this small section once again and look at what the professor says to the children. Okay, let's look together at how the professor responds to the other children when they say about Lucy going into the wardrobe. How does the professor respond? He uses the process of logic, doesn't he, to identify three possibilities. Have you got those three? The first one is that Lucy is lying. She could be just making it up. The second possibility is that she's mad. She really is Batty, as Edmund calls her. Or the third possibility, and this took the other children by surprise, is that she could be telling the truth. What I'd like you to do is in your notebooks, write a title, please, The Professor's Logic. And we need to write out those three possibilities. So the first possibility, Lucy is lying. The second possibility, Lucy is mad. And the third possibility, Lucy is telling the truth. But please, you need to leave maybe 8 lines after each of those. So after each of the three possibilities, leave 8 lines. And then we need 2 subheadings, true and false. So underneath the heading Lucy is lying, write the word true and leave about 4 lines, and then write the word false and leave another 4 lines. And then write true and false underneath Lucy is mad, leaving 4 lines after true and 4 lines after false, and then under Lucy is telling the truth. True, 4 lines, false. And what we're going to do is use the book and the evidence in the book to gather this evidence and have a look at the true and false evidence for each of these ideas. I've helped you out a bit with the first one. So for Lucy is lying, what's the evidence that this is true? Well, the main piece of evidence that we can find at the beginning of the text is Susan says that Edmund said that they had only been pretending. Okay, so Edmund in fact wasn't telling the truth there, but he tells the other children they're just pretending, and this seems like a good answer to the other children. And Susan says simply as well that it can't be true. Going into wardrobe or Narnia, this isn't a usual situation. So we've got 2 pieces of evidence for true. For false, we have some evidence as well. When the professor asked Peter, who would you believe, Lucy or Edmund, who is the more truthful? Peter says that Lucy is always more truthful than Edmund. Edmund is more likely to be one that's lying, and that it therefore doesn't fit in with Lucy's character to lie. So you can see that for Lucy is lying, you can see on the slide here that we've got evidence on the true side and we've got evidence on the false side. And what I'd like you to do is use the text in the book that you reread a minute or so ago, and I'd like you to gather the evidence, true and false, for the next 2 statements. So what's the evidence true that Lucy is mad or could be mad, and what's the false evidence that she's not mad? And what's the true evidence that she seems to be telling the truth, and what's the false evidence that she might not be telling the truth? Write those answers down in your notebooks. Pause the video now and take a little bit of time to do this, perhaps 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, I hope you've got a nice full page in your notebooks full of true and false evidence for each of the reactions. Probably you found that the professor was seeming to tell the children that she was telling the truth, and in fact, of course, we as readers know that she is telling the truth about Narnia being inside of that wardrobe. I wonder how we would respond to such a story. If you have a look at the questions that are going to be coming up on your screen now, under the title To Believe or Not to Believe. The first question I'd like you to answer in your notebooks, again you can put the heading here, To Believe or Not to Believe, is how would you respond to Lucy's Narnia story? Think if a friend told you what had happened to them. Would you be like one of the children, perhaps? Would you be like Edmund and just think that he or she was a bit crazy? Or would you try to be a little bit kind but have a bit of a laugh, perhaps like Peter or Susan? Would you try to process things logically like the professor? Or would you straight away believe that in fact there could be other worlds that we don't know about? Just write me a little answer in your book, a paragraph for that. Second question. The professor says at one point that nothing is more probable than that there are other worlds all over the place that we don't know about. And the words nothing is more probable means it is very likely that there are these other worlds all around us. What do you think about that statement? Write a short answer in your books. And finally, maybe you can identify with Lucy. Maybe you've been in a situation where you said about something true that had happened and you were not believed by the people around you. Look at the third question there. Have you ever been disbelieved for something even though you were telling the truth? And what happened and how did you feel? Perhaps you could just tell me a little bit about what happened in that situation. Another paragraph in your books, please. Can be any situation, maybe when you were a bit younger. Have you ever found yourself in Lucy's place? Pause the video. You will need about 10 minutes for this. Write as much as you can, and remember to read through your answers just to check for spellings and grammar. Okay, so hopefully we've had a good look in the lesson today about how people responded to Lucy's story about Narnia, the other children, how the professor responded, and how you would respond to such a story as well. I have got some homework for you. As usual, the homework is to read the next 2 chapters in the book. So, chapters 7 and 8, go ahead and read these, please. But I'd also like you to look again at chapter 6. Okay, this is something you should have read for homework last time. And just write a short answer to this question. How did the relationship between Edmund and the other children get worse in this chapter? And to help you with this, look at the reaction of the other children when they find out that Edmund had been to Narnia. He was lying when he said he hadn't been. And look at Edmund's comments himself. How did the relationship between Edmund and the other children get worse? How did they get more distant from each other? Okay, happy reading. Enjoy the book, enjoy the story, and I'll see you next time for chapters 7 and 8 of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe.